Okay, let's move on to section 10.2, which is over the threat of change, managing employee fear and resistance. Now, resistance to change is an emotional behavior response to real or imagined threats to an established work routine. Now, there are three sources of resistance to change: employee characteristics, which you can see here at the top of figure 10.2, and employee characteristics and employees' individual differences, actions, and inactions are perceptions of change. The next one here is change agent characteristics. The characteristics of the individual who is a catalyst in helping the organization change might contribute to employee resistance. Now, this might include leadership styles, personality, tactfulness, sense of timing, awareness of culture, tradition, or group relationships, and ability to empathize with the employee's perspective. And lastly, we see change agent employee relationship. Resistance to change is reduced when change agents and employees have a trusting relationship. Mistrust can doom a well-conceived change. Now, the degree to which employees feel threatened by it in general depends on whether the change is adaptive, innovative, or radically innovative. Now, the least threatening is adaptive change, which is the reintroduction of a familiar practice, the implementation of a kind of change that has already been experienced within the organization. Now, with adaptive change, this form is the lowest in complexity, cost, and uncertainty. Because it is familiar, it is the least threatening to the employees and thus will create least resistance. Now, somewhat threatening is the innovative change, which is the introduction of a practice that is new to the organization. This form of change involves moderate complexity, cost, and uncertainty. It is apt to trigger some type of fear and resistance among your employees. Now, the highest, which is very threatening, is the radically innovative change, and this change involves introducing a practice that is new to the industry. Because it is the most complex, costly, and uncertain, it will be felt as extremely threatening to managers' confidence and employees' job security. Now let's see if we can take a look at this information and apply it to a question. At the Big Peaches department store, employees generally know that during annual inventory they are required to work overnight shifts. This is an example of what type of change? Hopefully you picked A for adaptive change. And the reason for that is they know it happens every year, so it's a reintroduction to a familiar practice. Now, whether changes are adaptive, innovative, or radically innovative, employees may resist them for all kinds of reasons. Some of those reasons are listed here. Maybe it's just an individual's predisposition to change. How people react to change depends on how they learn to handle change as children. Surprise and fear of the unknown. When radically different changes are introduced without warning, the office rumor mill goes into high gear and employees become fearful of the implications of change. The next one we have is a climate of mistrust. Mistrust encourages secrecy, which causes deeper mistrust, putting even well-conceived changes at risk of failure. Another reason for an employee's resistance to change is fear of failure. Intimidating changes can cause employees to doubt their own capabilities in the organization. Next, we have the loss of status or job security. Changes that threaten to alter power bases or eliminate jobs generally triggers a strong resistance in an organization. Another reason we have is peer pressure. Even people who are not directly affected by impending changes may actively resist in order to protect the interests of coworkers and friends. Next, we have disruption of culture, traditions, or group relationships. Whenever individuals are transferred, promoted, or reassigned, the change can disrupt existing cultural and group relationships. Personality conflicts. The personalities of change agents can breed instant resistance. Lack of tact or poor timing of a change. Introducing change in an insensitive manner or at an awkward time can create employee resistance as well. And lastly, non-resisting reward system. Employees are likely to resist change when they can't see any positive rewards to them as an individual from those proposed changes. Next, we moved into talking about Kurt Lewin's change model, which involves unfreezing, changing, and refreezing. Now, Kurt Lewin developed this three-stage model to explain how to initiate, manage, and stabilize planned change in the organization. Unfreezing, this is creating the motivation to change. In the unfreezing stage, managers try to instill in employees the motivation to change, encouraging them to let go of attitudes and behaviors that are resistant to innovation. Employees need to become dissatisfied with the old way of doing things for this change to happen. Changing, this is learning new ways of doing things. In the changing stage, employees need to be given the tools for that change. Managers can provide benchmarking results, role models, mentors, and training during this. And refreezing, this is making the new ways normal. In the refreezing stage, employees need to be helped to integrate the change attitude and behavior into their normal way of doing things. In this type, managers can encourage employees through additional coaching and modeling and by reinforcing the employees in the desired change. Now, one technique used to help unfreeze organization is benchmarking, a process by which a company compares its performance with that of higher performing organizations. Now, in a model corresponding with Kurt Lewin's, is John Kotter suggests that an organization needs to follow 8 steps to avoid the 8 common errors senior managers usually commit. We'll take a look at these. Steps 1 through 4 represent unfreezing. The first one is establish a sense of urgency. This is where we unfreeze the organization by creating a compelling reason for why change is needed. The next step here in our steps of 1 through 4, which represent our unfreezing, is creating the guiding coalition. And this just creates a cross-functional, cross-level group of people with enough power to lead that change. Third, we develop a vision and a strategy. Create a vision and a strategic plan to guide the overall change process. And step 4 is to communicate the change vision. We're going to create and implement a communication strategy that consistently communicates the new vision and the strategic plan that we just developed. As we look at steps 5 through 7, these are going to represent the changing stage. Step 5 is going to empower a broad-based action. 6, we're going to generate short-term wins. Plan for and create short-term wins or improvements. Recognize and reward people who contribute to those wins. And then 7 is to consolidate gains and produce more change. The guiding coalition uses credibility from short-term wins to create more change. Additional people are then brought into the change process as the change cascades throughout the organization. And then step 8 we'll look at is corresponding to the refreezing stage, and this anchors new approaches in the organization's culture. You see that John Kotter's steps identify specific behaviors that managers need to exhibit to successfully lead organizational change. It is ineffective to skip any of these steps. Successful organizational change is 70 to 90% leadership and only about 10 to 30% actual management. Now we'll move into section 10.3 over organizational development. What is it and what it can do? Now, organizational development, or OD, is a set of techniques for implementing planned change to make people and organizations more effective. Organization development focuses specifically on people in the change process. Now, often organizational development is introduced by a change agent. We've mentioned this before. And a change agent is a consultant with a background in behavioral sciences who can be a catalyst in helping the organization deal with old problems in new ways. Organizational development can be used to address the following 3 matters. This should answer our what can organizational development be used for. Managing conflict. An organizational development expert may be used to advise an executive on how to improve relationships with others in the organization. The other reason we can see is revitalizing organizations. Changing information technology is forcing nearly all organizations to adapt new behaviors or decline. OD also opens communication, fosters innovation, and helps deal with stress. Our third reason here we see is adapting to mergers. Mergers and acquisitions can create increased anxiety, stress, absenteeism, and unfortunately, turnover in the organization. OD experts can help integrate two firms with varying cultures, products, and procedures. Let's take a look at how organizational development works. Organization development managers follow a medical-like model, approaching the organization as if it were a sick patient, using diagnosis, intervention, evaluation, and then, as always, we use feedback. So diagnosis, let's take a look at that. That is, what is the problem? Organizational development consultants can use questionnaires, surveys, interviews, meetings, records, and direct observations. The next step, intervention. What shall we do about it? Treatment or intervention is the attempt to correct the diagnosed problems. Then evaluation. How well has the intervention worked? An organizational development program should be objectively evaluated to judge its results. The change agent can use questionnaires, surveys, interviews to assess changes in the employees' overall attitudes. There are 4 factors that make organizational development work successfully. So these following conditions must be met. Multiple interventions. Combined interventions work better than just a single intervention. Management support. Organizational development success is more likely when top managers support the organizational development process and are truly committed to the change process. 3, goals are geared to both short and long-term results. Change programs are more successful when they create both short-term and long-term results, and those change efforts should produce positive results, not just change for the sake of change. And I'm sure you've probably been in an organization where you saw that there was change made just to have change in the organization. And organizational development is affected by culture. What works in one country may not work in a similar situation in another country. Let's move on to the last part of our chapter, which is 10.4, promoting innovation within the organization. Now, many people are uncomfortable with the idea of learning from failure. This can detract from an organization's ability to learn from its mistakes. There are 2 myths about innovation that need to be dispelled, and those are: innovation happens in a eureka moment. Most of the time, innovation is a product of hard work and dedication. And the other myth is that innovation can be systemized. It cannot be a codified and standardized process. Now in the text we talked about former Microsoft employee and author Scott Berkun. And he identified 6 seeds of innovation, and you can see those listed here. And these are the starting point for an organizational innovation. First one is hard work in a specific direction. Most innovations come from dedicated people diligently working to solve a well-defined problem. The next seed of innovation is hard work with direction change. Innovation frequently occurs when people change their approaches to solving a problem. Next one's curiosity. Innovations can begin when people are curious about something, leading to experimentation and then inventiveness. The next seed of innovation is wealth and money. Innovations frequently occur because an organization or an individual simply wants to make money. The next seed is necessity. Many innovations grow from the desire to achieve something or to complete a task that is needed to accomplish a broader goal. And lastly, many innovations occur as a result of multiple factors or a combination of seeds. Innovations may be a product innovation or they may be a process innovation. The difference between these two are that a product innovation is a change in the appearance or performance of a certain product or service, or the creation of an entirely new one. Whereas a process innovation is a change in the way a product or service is conceived, manufactured, or disseminated. Now, innovations may also be incremental innovations or a radical innovation. And a incremental motivation or innovation are the creation of products, services, or technologies that modify existing ones. And radical innovations are the creation of products, services, or technologies that replace existing ones. The difference is in modifying versus replacing existing products or services. Now, based on those types of innovations, let's take a look at a question here. Let's apply that information. Wendy's created display screens at its drive-thru windows that show customers their orders and prices. This is an example of what type of innovation: a product, process, adaptive, or reactive innovation. Obviously, the choice is B. This is a change in their process innovation. Now we'll conclude this part of our chapter in saying how can you foster innovation. There are 4 steps to fostering innovation. First step is to recognize problems and opportunities and devise solutions. Problems tend to seize our attention, and these problems may suggest solutions, such as new business ideas. We should recognize that opportunity. Opportunities may be recognized by long-term employees who regularly expose themselves to new ideas. These are known as our technological gatekeepers. Ideas originating at the grassroots level are another good source. The second step there is to gain allies by communicating your vision. A process starts with developing and communicating your vision. Start by persuading others inside the organization to support you. Among the details you need to communicate are showing how the product or service will be made, showing how potential customers will be reached, showing how you'll beat your competitors, and explaining when the innovation will take place. The third step for fostering innovation is to overcome employee resistance and empower and reward them to achieve progress. Persuade the people reporting to you to support the innovation and may have to overcome their resistance. Remove obstacles that limit them in executing the vision. Hand out periodic rewards for tasks accomplished. Now, the last step is to execute well. Execution will make or break an organization's attempts at bringing new products and services to the market. Well, everyone, that will conclude our Chapter 10 over Organizational Change and Innovation. Thank you for joining along, and I'll see you in the next chapter.